So I wanted to record this video, and I have another video coming about the 12 teams that I think will make the playoffs this year. But I wanted to make this video and release this video first because I have a couple of teams that I think that might play spoiler. I just choked. Oh my God. Make this video in regards to some teams that I think could play spoiler, or some teams that could make some noise or mess things up, as you will, for the college football playoff this year. And so this video is just about the teams that I think we should pay a little bit more attention to see if they have the ability to mess things up, either based off the teams that they play or their future record prediction that they might have. So let's just get into the video. The first team I actually have on the list is kind of weird because it's LSU. And I know historically LSU has a strong program. They're consistent. We all know that they can play defense. We all know what LSU brings to the table. Like, nobody in their right mind would ever say that LSU is not a good football program. I think what's interesting about LSU this year is I think they're getting overshadowed by Texas. And I know if you're an LSU fan, you might hear this and you might say, we're not going to get overshadowed by Texas. But I think what's happened is, as Texas has entered in the SEC, I feel like a lot of the conversation has been more about Texas. And historically, the conversation is really, in my opinion, have been about the big three, which I used to see that as Georgia, Alabama, and LSU. Now it seems like the tide has changed a little bit, obviously with Nick Saban retiring. That's happening. And then obviously Kirby Smart's players can't seem to find their way out of trouble. And so I feel like LSU is one of these teams that a lot of people just aren't talking about. And a lot of people aren't talking about their quarterback either. So if he steps up and he is better than people think he is, and if they get a couple of key stops, I think LSU has an interesting way to play spoiler this year, which is kind of funny me saying that, but I really believe they have the potential to play spoiler this year. The next team I'm going to mention, and I know some of you are going to be like, why is she even mentioning them, is Florida. So do I think Florida is going to be a good football team this year? No. But I do think that Florida might beat some people that some people think they might lose to. And if they happen to beat a team that people think they're going to lose to, it could disrupt some things. And if you look at Florida's schedule, obviously their schedule is tough. Obviously, they have a lot of moving parts and things happening within Florida, but I think that they have the potential to win a game or two that nobody thinks that they have the potential to win. And if they do that, they could disrupt the college football playoff this year. The other team I'm going to mention is Syracuse. Now, I know, being a Colorado fan, I probably know more about Syracuse than the normal football fan would know, just because of association with Fran Brown and people who left Colorado to go to Syracuse. But Syracuse has I think their schedule is pretty light this year. And I think they have the potential to win more games than people think they're going to win. And so if Syracuse ends up winning more games than people think they're going to win, and Syracuse has the potential to maybe beat a Miami, or maybe beat some teams that people don't think they have the potential to beat. And if they do those things, and if they end up having a really good record, I think Syracuse is going to be one of those weird teams that you're like, okay, let's see what they're going to do. Let's see how they basically screw up all the plans that we had previously. The other team I'm going to mention, and it might shock some of you, is going to be Colorado. I have been on record of saying Colorado is going to go 7-5. I've been in a lot of spaces. I've heard a lot of things. A lot of people think Colorado's a laughingstock. A lot of people have different opinions and different thoughts about Colorado, and I get that. But what if we're all wrong? What if we are all wrong and Colorado is a better team than we think they're going to be? What if Colorado ends up beating some teams that we think they're going to lose to, and they end up messing things up? Historically, the Big 12 almost cannibalizes themselves. And because people don't really consider the competition good competition, when they jump in there and they start beating each other, what happens is that impacts the teams and the strength of schedule and how people view the Big 12. And if Colorado ends up being a better team than people think they are, they have the potential to mess some things up. And that could be scary if that happens. As a Colorado fan, I do hope they win more games than 7. That's my prediction. I hope they win more games. And if they do, they are going to mess some things up, and they're going to play spoiler, and they're going to get up in there, and they're going to disrupt some things. And you know what? I'm all for a good disruption. I think the other schools I'll mention here too, Clemson, Penn State. I don't trust Penn State. I don't know if that's just because of their history. I never feel like I watch them win a big game. I feel like they always lose to the same teams over and over. But if they figure it out this year, they could be dangerous. Same with Clemson. I don't know if Clemson is getting better or getting worse or kind of becoming average. I know that there's like weird things happening with Dabo Swinney about his rules and transfer portal and things like that. So I don't really know where Clemson is at as far as program wise. But I do think that they have the potential to disrupt some things if they happen to win more games than not. The other thing I want to say, and I cannot believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it, is Texas A&M. One of the things about Texas A&M is if Texas is going to be as good as some teams think, or some people think Texas is going to be, Texas A&M plays Texas at the end of the season, very last game of the season for Texas. And that could be a very impactful game. And so A&M has the potential to play spoiler on Texas, which I know that they would love. And they also have potential to play spoiler just throughout the SEC and really disrupt some things. Because when you start looking at the SEC schedule and how things are aligned and who plays who and who does what, teams like Texas A&M can make an impact. And so maybe not an impact because they're good per se, but an impact on if they beat somebody they shouldn't beat or something like that. That could disrupt a lot of things. The last team I'm going to say, which is actually kind of funny that I'm going to say this, is going to be the University of Alabama. And I know that historically Alabama is the standard. They have been the model program. They've been the program that everybody has been trying to catch. They've been the program that has been the pillar of consistency. They've had Nick Saban. No matter, I don't care what you think, he's the best college coach that I've been alive to witness. And so Nick Saban had Alabama rolling. And I think that we all think that because he's gone, everything in Alabama is just not going to work. However, we saw DeBoer, I think that's how you say his name. I hope I'm saying his name right. But we saw him build Washington. Washington was in the national championship game. I've been able to watch Washington for different reasons. I watched them in the Pac-12 last year because obviously being a Colorado fan, I like watching the competition. Also, Washington beat Texas 2 times back-to-back years. So I've been able to see what he's building. And then he goes to Alabama and everybody thinks, oh my gosh, transfer portal's going crazy, new coach, everyone's leaving, all these things are happening. And then what does he do? He's just landing recruits after recruits after recruits, and he's building. And he's a lot like LSU. Because Nick Saban's not there, people almost are not talking about Alabama anymore. And I think that's a mistake. And it actually, I'm going to be honest, I feel like an idiot saying that Alabama is going to be spoiler to anybody because nobody should be sleeping on Alabama. That thought of that is actually freaking ridiculous. But the truth is, I think there's a lot of people that are sleeping on Alabama because they don't have Nick Saban. And even if we don't want to admit it as people, we get used to seeing the same thing. And once we don't see, once something changes, once you get a new coach, once things move, we often assume that that's going to be a huge impact. And I think it's going to be interesting because what if Alabama wins 10 games? What if Alabama's 9-3? If Alabama is 10-2 or Alabama is 9-3, do you keep them out of the playoffs and not have and do you not have Alabama in the playoffs and then you put somebody like a Syracuse in the playoffs that might have a similar record? I don't think so. I think you have to go with Alabama. So again, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Alabama does this year. Yes, it's a little crazy that I'm even saying Alabama is a sleeper team, but I just don't think people talk about them as much anymore. And I think that we're forgetting actually who they are. I think that's interesting. The other thing I just want to mention before I end this video is about people that I think will play spoilers. This is not about the teams that I think are like the best teams. There's no point in me talking about the best team because if everybody thinks the same 6 teams are going to be the best teams in college football, there's no need for me to make a video and dispel those things when I actually am in agreement. So this video is only about the spoilers of how some of these teams I think can come in and disrupt some things. based on them just being able to play spoiler and being able to win games that people don't think that they can win. I was on the fence between mentioning Notre Dame. I decided not to mention Notre Dame. I have my reasons. Maybe I'll talk about those reasons in the next video that I will record about who I think will be the top 12 teams that will be in the playoffs next year. But for now, these are the teams that I think have the potential to play spoiler for this season. It's so weird how like I'm not looking at myself, I'm actually looking at the camera. But then when I look at myself and I see my hair coming forward, then all of a sudden I want to move it and play with it. Anyways, nobody cares about any of that. So let me get focused. But seriously, like I was saying before, this is about spoilers, and this is about the teams that I think that have the potential to come in and disrupt some things, and to come in and to do some things that I think could put everything into a tailspin. So again, I have already said I like disruption. I like sports for this reason. I like that when you watch sports, things that you think are going to happen don't always happen. And I think this would be another example of that. And so I'm very curious to see what happens and how this plays out as we move forward. As always, thank you so much for listening to this. I would love to know what any of you think about any of the spoilers that I predicted. I will add the spoilers back on the screen so that you can see them. If you made it to the end of this video, I know a lot of people don't make it to the end of the video, but if you made it to the end of this video, I will add those back up here. I also just want to mention, if you haven't already, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on those notifications. A lot of you are asking me when I'm going to release videos, when I'm going to do this, when I'm going to do that. Make sure that you have your notifications on, because I promise you, as the season starts to kick in through the month of August and obviously through the season, I will be posting a lot more. I will also figure out what a posting schedule is going to look like for me. I'm going to be honest, I'm still looking at the data, but once I figure that out, I will also post that. But thank you for watching this video. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have anything else you would like me to know, please let me know in the comments below.